So here's one. As you know, I can't tell jokes, but the shorter, the easier. How much did the Cockney pay for his shampoo?
I don't know. How much did the Cockney pay for his shampoo?
£10. Oh, maybe it's because I'm a Londoner.
Do you know what you just reminded me of? What I miss
What's
desperately, and I miss it so much that I bought the record. I've still got the record in the house somewhere. Mel Smith and Griff Rhys-Jones head to head.
Oh yeah, gosh. Do you think that was that style of joke?
Well, it's that
of the
kind
voice
of
you lapsed into.
Yeah, it was. But it's like, you know.
Yeah. Do you know what they reckon they found a. Yeah, I can't think of any of them now, but they were very good fun at the time.
I spy with my little eye something beginning with B.
What's that then?
I can't remember the rest of it. I'll have to get the record out.
Oh, the gramophone disc. Anyway, you've stumbled across the comedy slab, or perhaps you've intended to walk this way. I'm Adrian Lacey. I'm speaking to you from the southeast of England. I'm in Kent, and that's sort of on London's doorstep, and in the other direction, Europe's doorstep. Woo! And himself, I don't know what that was about.
Have they turned Europe into some kind of haunted theme park now?
Well, I thought if we're not careful, we're going to go down some rabbit hole. I don't mean Eurostar. Anyway, the other voice is that of Shane O'Connor, who is in the Midlands. And look, actually, I did hear tell you've got an equally awful joke up your sleeve.
Well, mine was a visual one. I just saw it in the. I don't know where it was, the toilet then. I always lapse into the two, Ron. When I know in my own head, I'm going, I saw it in the
Doctors?
The toilet, in the doctors, yeah. She's under the sideboard.
Anaesthetic?
And it was this guy, and he was in a do-it-yourself store, and he was looking at a sign that said free grout. Yeah. And he was saying to himself, Le Chic, say freak. Or is it no? The freak.
I think we get the idea. Free grout.
Free grout.
Yeah, I think we get that. I like that. In the right hands, that could be turned into a joke, couldn't it?
Yeah. It's never works describing things that you've seen when you've just got audio to play with, have it really?
Well, unfortunately, that's... Yeah, actually, this week we are putting on the Comedy Slab, a radio show, so yes, a bit easier. Last week was fun, wasn't it? Because it's such a visual show, the Goes Wrong show.
Yeah, but again, I mean, it's like, and I think we said this last week, it was of its own kind. I couldn't think of anything that I could liken it to, could you? Still not, even after a week of thinking about it. And I watched the last episode that I hadn't watched.
Right.
Between last week and now, and thoroughly enjoyed it, which was the one where they got. Have you seen the one where they got the whole? You haven't watched all of them, have you?
I know. I've only seen the one we slabbed last week and the courtroom one.
Ah, right, okay. So I've watched them all now, but I still, and I was thinking about it, and I thought there is nothing like that. It's not since Herbert Clunkerdunk have we had that kind of ingenuity. Unique flavour.
Engineering as well. If you don't know what we're talking about, that's on the BBC iPlayer as we speak. I can't remember how long for. Maybe not that long. But also, as and when the West End reopens, please God, it is a West End play. I mean, I saw the posters, and if I'd known then what I know now, I'd been much more tempted to buy the West End show, because I really enjoyed the TV show.
I think they do different things. They did a pantomime that went wrong, I think.
Well. Yeah. And is that's the Santa one, presumably, or was that yet another one?
I think it's a different one again. I think I'm not really quite sure, and from what I could tell, looking at pictures, I think now that the cast from the theatre are now working in TV. That they put a whole new cast into the theatre, which is
I think I saw that, yeah, except those poor souls. Well, hopefully they're getting some kind of retainer. I don't know how it is with actors. Anyway, This is a first for us, isn't it? Reviewing last week's sort of review of another show entirely. But anyway, what we're putting on the slab momentarily is, as I say, a radio show. It's called The Wilsons Save the World. Marcus Brigstock in the lead role. At some stage, I don't know if we're there just yet, I'm going to have to second guess Shane's reaction, because if you're new to the show, lovely to have you along. Each week we take it in turns to review a TV, radio or podcast type show, and at the top of the show we try and, or close to the top, we try and guess what the other person, for whom we have set the homework, and for you, the listener, we try and guess what their reaction is going to be. Are we at that moment? Might as well do it now. I've talked about it, I suppose.
Yeah, you can do. I mean, I just wanted to tell you what a week I've had, because
do.
Because I brought this along to bolster my story.
See, even though I can see you on Skype, I don't know how deliberate it is, but you're holding it in such a way I can't see it. So I've got to guess like the listener. I suppose it's fair we should have a level playing field. What the heck that is? It sounds like a child's toy to me.
Well, that's a good guess. I wanted to just bring it in because I wanted to sort of tell the story, but give you the punchline before everybody else, just as, you know, one of the perks of the job, if you like, really. My son has been walking around the house for a couple of days, asking me and his mother where his effing car is. And we, exactly that reaction, we have been beside ourselves going, what is he on? What is it? Where's my effing car? And I was, what is he on about? Where's my effing car? And I thought, he's 2 years old. Why is he saying this? But it turns out, where's my effing car?
Elephant.
He was actually saying, where's my elephant car? And it was us that the problem. It was clean when it left us, darling.
Oh, darling.
Yeah.
Back to Max Headroom.
Glad the vicar didn't come round, that's all. So, where's my effing car, he was saying.
God.
But he just can't quite say the word elephant yet. So that was a great relief for everybody.
But I did have a friend had, when her kids were young, that they had a car that, shall we just say, was a bit temperamental in terms of starting. So day after day, this is a problem. Of course, they I don't know if they'd have been, I suppose they're just starting school then. I don't know. Anyway, so another day, another key in the ignition goes, and that's not the driver, that's the engine. That wasn't very good. But anyway, it's sort of half turning over and yet not catching. Yeah. And Dad says quite cleanly, "Oh, come on, car." And from the back comes the sound of his 5-year-old son, "Yeah, come on, effing car." Because presumably on other occasions, Dad had been slightly looser with his tongue. So it's when the child upstages the dad with the language. You've got that to look forward to, I feel.
Yeah, and this is the thing, isn't it? Is you think that you're having a private conversation, and if you've got kids, you never are, because they're always, the radar is always on, isn't it? And they're always picking stuff up.
You're soaking it up like a sponge.
Yeah, but his funny bone's coming on nicely, though. That's nice to see. We're having a good old laugh at things on the TV now, and he laughs and looks at me as if to say, "Should I be laughing at that?" And I'm thinking, well, the Queen doesn't very often fall down a flight of stairs. You might as well lap it up.
Brutal, that's your humour.
Yeah.
But are you very disciplined, the both of yous, Mr. and Mrs. O'Connor, with what you say in front of the kids, or you occasionally drift off and forget they're soaking it up? Is that what you're saying?
Because he's, like I say, he's only 2, so...
Yeah, but it can be going in before they repeat it.
No, not on about him. I'm on about me. I mean, we've only had 2 years to adjust, is what I'm saying.
Oh, I see. To clean your language.
Yeah. So it depends whether we're talking about a mother or not, really. I think that's,
Is she worse?
The language gets a bit fruity then, you know.
She's... Right, I see.
I'm talking about my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law.
Oh, right, sorry. Right? I'm not saying my mother-in-law. Right.
No, so we do try. I mean, yeah, I'm not one of these progressive parents who think. So the thing that we do at the moment is Angelina will say, what would you like for a snack, Frank? Or what would you like for lunch? And I'll go, he's 2? What? I didn't make a decision in my parents' house until I was about 16.
Yeah, but they grow up so fast these days, don't they?
Yeah. So, I don't know. And then she's surprised when he says chocolate for every meal, do you know what I mean? It's like, we
would have been the same. Yeah, exactly. You walked into that. Yeah. Anyway, now is the time, cue for another song. Time to set things. I must at least try and second guess, do a bit of mind reading and try and work out what you think of this show. Now, people who heard last week's show, when I was setting the homework at the end of last week's show, I mentioned Marcus Brigstock, and you sounded very warm to the idea, like you're a bit of a fan.
Big fan. Big fan of Marcus Brigstock. Big fan.
Now, that ought to be a big clue, except...
And Kerry Godliman.
Yeah, double bubble there. You ought to like it. As I was saying last week, it is a show that is about that couple who play Mike and Maxine, respectively, trying to do the right thing, by which we're talking the sort of ecologically friendly thing. And there's a possibility it might ruffle your political feathers if it's too squeaky clean. But as I said last week, I think the get out of jail free card for the show, as far as you're concerned, is that it's sending up how hard it is to be, quotes, pure or perfect, or however you see it. If you see it through another political lens, you'd see that as pointless or even worse than useless. All of which makes me think, I'm going to plump for... See, I think you're an all or nothing guy. When I think about it, you don't mark in the middle. We give every show a score each out of 5 at the end of our Comedy Slab podcast. And I mean, so often I give a 3.5 because I can see both sides, I think. But you're either a very mean 1 or 2, or you're up the other end, 4.5. Oh, gosh. I've only just worked that out, that you're quite polarised after all these shows. I
am a bit binary, aren't I? It's either on or off, isn't it, I guess? Right?
Yeah.
No, I have been down the middle before. I was trying to think which, and unfortunately, I do keep the scores on the doors, but I don't individually...
keep individual scores.
Yeah, keep what we individually did.
Well, if you want to create more work for yourself, but at least, it would be like the ONS, it would be more trustworthy. It's like we'd have the most envied statistics anywhere in the world, which I think was some sort of claim made this week.
You see, we gave Flight of the Conchords a 6 between us.
And I know that didn't do it for me, so I'm the reason it's marked down. And you loved it, so I must have been at the lower end then. And you
right, you think you might have given it a 2 and I gave it a 4 again. So
2's not quite like me, but I mean, I don't. When I say 3.5's a default, that more often than not. But I like to fool people. I think. Look, cut to the chase. I think on balance you're going to like it, but you will have your reservations. So maybe this will be a case of you being a bit more in the middle. I'm going to stick my neck out. Okay. Anyway. Without further ado, I think we should get into the first clip. And I've changed my mind on this. It's Adrian's prerogative to change his mind on which of 3 audio clips... Well, we're going to play all 3 audio clips, but I've changed what the first one is going to be. So we're doing this on the fly. And, well, each of us have heard the show twice, so it's not going to come as a complete shock. I haven't got any written clues as to how I'm going to get into it. Let's just say the subject of this week's show, so I should say it's Series 1, The Block. It's actually a repeat from 2017, BBC Radio 4 show made by BBC Studios. This is all about S.E.X. and how we can't quite bring ourselves to say it. But here's the thing. It turns out... the fairer sex, I said it then, might actually enjoy S.E.X. or something that sounds like it.
But you're right, though. It took me until my mid-30s to realise that women did actually like it.
I like it.
Yes, I know, but I'll be honest, I thought I'd got lucky and you were broken in some way. Damaged, but in a good way.
Wow. Look, Like it or not, Cat is becoming a woman, and you can either ignore it or you can help her through it, unless you want the internet to be her dad.
No, I want to be her dad. I want to be an amazing dad.
And you should probably start reading some of these books. Here, this is what they're doing in her feminism club. Caitlin Moran.
Right, How to Build a Girl, How to Be a Woman. I've heard of these, sort of feminist call to arms.
Yeah, that, but it's also about what we've been talking about, fleshy stuff, burgeoning womanhood, being proud of your mind and body. There's a whole chapter on teenage self-discovery in the bath.
What? What? You can't write that in a book. A book by a lady?
It's not that shocking. I reckon most women of a certain age had their first funny feelings in the bath, under the watchful gaze of the matey sailor.
Not you, though.
Aye, aye, Captain.
Well, that took me back a bit, matey bubble bath, which was... What happened to that? That was...
They're probably museum pieces now. Very hard plastic. Whether it was recyclable, who knows? That probably upset the Wilsons.
Can't imagine what you were doing with yours. So...
Aye, Captain.
You got to have a headline off me now, have you?
You're saying it like it's a new idea. We've had it for months.
I'm trying to keep it fresh, you know.
Oh, right, okay. Sorry, I should have pretended.
I was acting, darling. I was acting.
Sorry, I failed to act. Yes, very good. To give us a headline. That would be a good, fresh idea, wouldn't it?
Now you just sound sarcastic now, don't you? So that's...
I was born that way.
I can't help it. I'm a natural born sarcastica.
That's true.
My headline would be, "Come back, Giles Wembley Hogg, all is forgiven."
Oh, it's not sounding good. I went the wrong way, as it were.
You were like a goalkeeper who wasn't the toast of the town on the FA Cup final penalty shootout.
I dove the wrong way.
You did. You went rushing in the wrong way. It was a good educated guess though, because it could have been either way. And I'll explain more as time goes on. But
oh dear, I've got a heavy heart now.
Wasn't for me.
Right.
Wasn't for me at all.
I'm busy trying to recall. I mean, I did listen to. Is it Wembley Hogg? Wembley. No, I've got footballers on the brain now.
Two M's, two B's, isn't it, Giles Wembley Hogg? Yeah.
Yeah, see, I didn't particularly rate that. That's all I remember about it. I can't remember the detail. He was obviously some posh knob, if we can use that term.
Yeah, he was a Tim Nice but dim kind of character, wasn't he, really?
Right.
Which is quite interesting, because if you read Marcus Brigstock's family history, I don't know if you have. Have you had a look at all of his family history?
No, he's of posh stock, I'm taking it.
Oh,
Brigstock.
He's the son of Nick Brigstock, who is a stockbroker from a Welsh landed gentry family. And his wife, Carol, was daughter of senior Royal Air Force officer Air Marshal Sir Walter Pretty, I should say. Mm. He was raised in Surrey, educated at St Edmund's School in Surrey as well. Went to Westbourne House School in Chichester.
Right.
Slumped it at the University of Bristol, but then didn't finish his degree for some reason. I don't know why he didn't do that. And I didn't realise he'd struggled with alcohol and drug addiction through his life as well. But he is Giles Wembley Hogg, isn't he, in real life?
Right. Well,
in terms of background.
I would say this might sound a funny angle to approach it from, but I mean, what's interesting is the fact that this show happens to be about sex. It gives license to Maxine, his stage wife here, his radio wife, Kerry Godliman, to actually say she, the character, is from Essex. It gives her license to at least say, "Oh, I was born or raised in Brentford or Brentwood." Forgive me. Brentford is entirely the other direction. But what intrigues me is I don't quite know what the starting point was, but where they've ended up is a show. Well, Ricky Gervais says British comedy is about class, full stop. He has said that before now. Whether he still subscribes to something quite as black and white as that, I don't know. But this is most certainly, it's got class in the mix. Clearly, is there any level, trying to accentuate the positive as the song goes, is there any level at which it works for you? Does it work as, at least, do you find it successful in convincingly pitting a posh bloke against a less posh bird?
And people who listen to this podcast and get it, and, by some of the comments I see, there are plenty of people who listen to the podcast and don't get it, is that, we very often, when we don't like something, we beat ourselves up about it, don't we? God, why didn't we like it? What is it that we don't kind of get about it? And I always think, rightly or wrongly, I always think to a degree, it is you as an audience member. If it didn't, it's for you to connect with it, as it were. And if you don't connect with it, you've got to ask yourself why and what it is about it. And I really struggled putting my finger on what it is that that I didn't like about it. I didn't like the overall sound of it for a start. The whole type of sitcom that it was. It was very, and the kids thing does my head in. Kids in comedy.
I thought Lola's particularly good.
I'm not saying they weren't good. I just don't like to hear kids usurping adults. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it was my upbringing and being told that children should be seen and not heard. I don't know.
But I'd have to say, but it's not going to win you round, I know, even as I say it, but that is part of the joke, isn't it? And when it comes to sex, certainly the elder daughter is streets ahead of them, and obviously technically ahead of them in the use of the internet and so on. Yeah.
And again, like I say, it was not. There's nothing. Technically, as actresses, I thought the kids were fine. They weren't. There was nothing about them or their performance. But it was just about me and how my antenna picked that up. And I just, we've had this conversation before about My Family in the earlier days, and what's the other one with Outnumbered. Which I, again, on paper, I kind of look at it. That's an Andy Hamilton thing, isn't it? Outnumbered.
Yeah, co-written with the same guy who co-wrote whatever we were slabbing the other week. Was it not Old Harry's Game? It was another one. Anyway, come back to us.
It was Kate and Koji, wasn't it?
That's right. Yes,
the ITV comedy, which we quite like.
Which you do like, yeah. But a very short answer to my question, which, if anyone can remember, and that would include me struggling to remember, is no. It doesn't sound like there's anything particularly redeeming. I was pointing to the relationship. Can I float another show, which is Gavin and Stacey, which has Gavin from S.E.X, and obviously it's Barry Island, isn't it? For
I've never watched Gavin and Stacey.
Oh, we'll have to get you doing that on the Slab of comedy one of these weeks. That's an amazing thing, because most of the world watched the Christmas special last year.
Well,
I did.
I really like Ruth Jones. I really like Rob Brydon.
So what stopped you watching the darn thing?
James Corden. Which again, I don't like James Corden.
But you like him as an actor, I thought you said. You don't like his talk show.
That's what I was going to say. I don't like him. I was going to say as a person, but of course, as his talk show, it's just. He does play the sycophant card on his talk show. He's fawning all over people.
But I can't imagine you liking any talk show particularly, or maybe one or two of the old classic Parkies or something. But you don't strike me as a chat show kind of guy.
Well, I am, but you're right. It would be old school, and that's because there was a pivot point at some point where. Chat shows became about the interviewer rather than the interviewee. And
I was looking out, I'd say we will get onto our second audio clip in just a sec, but to finish on the point of Gavin and Stacey and their Christmas special last year, so a 2019 edition, which did fabulously for ratings, and it did seem like a revival of get everyone round the TV set. I was looking for James Corden's ego getting in the way because he's such a big star in the States now, and I could not fault it. So this is even coming from the perspective of I'm tuned to that, I'm kind of looking for it. I couldn't find it. He slotted in ensemble playing beautifully, No ego. He did the job. He was the character, but he wasn't pulling focus, as they say. He wasn't stealing limelight or anything like that. So
right,
you should definitely give Gavin and Stacey a go. I don't see what's holding you back. I
can't bring myself to do it.
Well, I will put it on the slab and see who salutes. You won't have a choice.
I'd feel dirty.
Well, that's your problem. You're going to have to swallow some bleach afterwards. No, don't do that for real.
Come on then. Before we have the next clip, then just tell me what you thought.
I did enjoy it. I think there's some cracking lines. Unlike you, I mean, I know you've said it's a general problem with you. I think the kids are wonderful, and also they give them. He's given them along with. Sorry, Ms. Morgan. Is it Sarah Morgan?
Co-writer, yeah, Sarah Morgan. Yeah.
Who we were talking before we hit record about Horrible Histories, because she wrote on that. So she's got a great comedy pedigree. I think they give the girls some cracking lines, but moreover, they deliver them well. I mean, it's all very well giving lines to young actors. You could be taking a bit of a risk. Can they carry it off? But I think they do. And overall, I liked it. I think it's a superior sitcom and deserves an outing on TV. It doesn't follow that a radio show has to go to TV. That's not necessarily a promotion, and we've spent hours talking about that. Okay, so this is... Cat is the older daughter, so it's mummy, daddy, two girls. So this is Dad trying to teach his older daughter, Cat, how to be a woman. And you can probably see the pitfall that he's not a woman, so is it his position to tell her how it's done? Anyway, he thinks he's done the research. He's read the book, so good luck with this.
I have learned, as a woman, you've been born in the middle of a centuries-long bloody war hard fought by generations.
You know what, all this time, I thought I was born in Didcot Central.
And of course now there's this whole new frontier of the internet. Your brain's neuroplasty is still very malleable.
I'm home.
Oh, thank goddess.
What's going on?
Well, Dad's trying to talk to me about bodies, and I'm wondering if it's possible to fatally overdose on evening primrose oil, so...
Oh, dear.
It's okay. I know it's hard to talk about this stuff. I mean, have you read Caitlin Moran's book?
I told you to read it.
Okay, let's be more positive. Kat, tell me, what's the best thing about being a woman?
I'd have to say it's, the prerogative to have a little fun.
Fun?
Fun, yeah.
That's fantastic, Kat. Please go on.
Go totally crazy. Forget I'm a lady. Men's shirt, short skirt. Only the free can feel the way I feel. Man, I feel like a woman.
Interesting that bit as well, because I was kind of thinking, I was going to mention a little bit earlier on, one of the disconnects I had was the dialogue was a bit unrealistic, I suppose, is the best way I can describe it. And the next lines after that, he says something about, because he doesn't recognise that she's saying the words to a Shania Twain song, yeah. And he says something like, despite it being his karaoke staple or something like that, and he still didn't recognise it. And you kind of think, well, if it was, then surely you would have recognised it. Similarly with the kids, I think you were saying about how good they were, and I think despite the fact that they were given some really clunky lines to deliver, earlier on, I think it was the oldest daughter, where she says to her mum, "You have the platform, Mum," and I thought, I don't know a kid who would say that. You have the platform, Mum. And then the little one goes on to say, "It's a delightful portmanteau, Mum."
But isn't that the joke? How precocious the Lola is.
It didn't work for me at all. It was I just felt it was like really, really clunky.
Right. There's a bit where Kat loses her rag. I was sort of wondering after the event whether I kept changing my mind about the clips. I did wonder about putting that one in. And that I found very believable, her being...
Annoyed.
And I was trying to think of another word for hormonal, because it's, there's me trying to sound right on. But it did sound like a teenage strop which was the point again. So that's probably the term I should use. Yeah, I'm sorry you didn't enjoy it the same way I did.
Did you find it a bit misandrous at all as well? Did you kind of this whole, as you said, it's like it's very estrogen heavy, isn't it? I suppose, if you're going to put it in those terms. But because of that, then you kind of think, oh, here we are again. We talk about stereotypes, and here we are again with a stereotype of the feckless dad who's trying to do his best for the family but can't because he's a bit of a thickie and he doesn't really understand it. And you kind of think, if you catch that in any other terms, I think there would be a big outcry of unacceptability.
But Mum failed as well, didn't she? She confused her fubbing with her fapping.
Yeah, do you know, I'd never heard of that. I don't know where I get to. I thought they were saying fupping at first, which was... I don't know if you've ever seen the Father Ted, the old grey whistle theft episode.
No.
Where
they go to a pleasure beach on Craggy Island, and this guy comes up to him and he goes, "What are you fupping doing? You shouldn't fupping do that, you fupping fupper." And he said, "What are you talking like that for?" And he points to the sign that says no swearing. And I thought that's what they were saying. I had to look it up, and then I'm not going to confess to doing the same, but I'm using you as a human shield. So anyway, no, I just thought I believe that he was. Look, it's a family failing, and I would imagine, notwithstanding what you said about meeting people like that, I would have thought there'd be an awful lot of identification, particularly in lockdown. I would have thought, when everything's writ large, just how there's no such thing as a perfect family, is there? Nor could there ever be.
No.
And so I think a lot of imperfect families, i.e., potentially, I would say, this is optimistic, you could have 100% base of imperfect families. Maybe there's a lot of blindness. Maybe the imperfection of some families is that they're blind to their faults. I don't know, but I don't know.
But isn't that a sorry to interrupt you, but isn't that a conceited concept in its own right? Because
probably
because whoever is saying that is then becoming the judge and arbiter of what a perfect family is and what a fault is, and yet so they're striving for something that isn't. I mean, if like you were saying, it was very metrocentric, but I think it is very London. It's a London thing.
Yeah,
I don't think if you went into Newcastle or Birmingham or Liverpool, you would again find families like that. And if you did, I think they would be
run out of town.
Yes, I was going to say either run out of town,
get back to London,
or harangued, or I don't know, whatever. But that because they're not real. But it's this whole idea that they were in pursuit of something that they perceived that they thought that was a better thing to be. The whole thing was just fuzzed my brain a bit, really, I think. And because you're then thinking, well, who are you then to say, well, that's a perfect family because they do X, Y, Z?
Yeah, but they're not holding themselves up as perfect family. That I'm not quite understanding your point.
No, they're striving to be a perfect family, but the writer, in saying that that's what they're striving for, is saying that that's what they believe the definition of a perfect family is. But my point is, who are they to be the arbiter of what a perfect family is? Because
I'm not sure I would see it that way. The other way, sorry, I'm in getting you back. One all for interruptions.
Go on.
But I think where they've started from is that we all fail in the end, whichever angle we're trying to chase perfection. It's something always out of reach.
Right.
I did feel. I mean, I don't know what the actual process was and how it came about. I'm intrigued by that. I need to dig a bit deeper on that, I think, if indeed they've put it in the public domain. But I think the way it sounded to me is they've started with the end, which is you conclude you can't do it. But that's a marvellously relatable thing. It just can't be done. And a lot of the comedy comes in the failure to do such a thing.
And yet I spent most of my time thinking, why don't you and it wouldn't be funny if they did. I mean, I know the answer to this is rhetorical in a sense, but I kind of sit there thinking, well, why are you expending all that energy trying to do something that you know you can't do when you'd just be better off trying to be better parents without holding it to this kind of middle class Surbiton standard, to use a good life phrase. Do you know what I mean? It's that I thought it was interesting when Caitlin Moran came on, because she had
we're going to hear her in the third clip.
Oh, okay.
So don't give too much away, but
she had a cameo appearance, and I thought she gave him the biggest amount of stick than anybody, and I thought that's really quite telling. Is that the feminist comes on and lays into the dad the most, and I thought that kind of.
But it's written by a man and a woman. I don't know who steered that scene more, but you've got to look at it as, well, I don't know. It's hard to say. There's an argument for saying he's chosen to portray it that way, or maybe Sarah Morgan, the co-writer, dominated. I don't know.
I'm glad you said that, because the more I got to think about this, and Marcus, if you listen to this, don't take this the wrong way.
That means it can be taken the wrong way.
Well, everything can, can't it? Quite
Fast
clearly.
forward, Marcus, through this next bit.
Yeah. I've always, and bear in mind, I'm a huge fan, right? And I've always thought that Marcus Brigstock hasn't had the career that he deserved. He hasn't had the exposure. He hasn't had the roles. He hasn't had the breaks that I think he deserves for his talent. And to that end, I can't help thinking in the back of my mind, and I could be completely wrong.
Yeah.
I can't help thinking that this is an attempt to make himself current. Because he's never written, as far as I'm aware, he's never kind of written or been in anything of this nature before. I don't get the sense of, you saying about the sense of they're poking fun at this. I don't see that what they're poking fun at is their inability to achieve what they aspire to be, but they're not actually poking fun at the aspiration itself, which I think is the more comical part of it. And I do wonder whether Marcus is going, oh, look at me, I'm a bit right on, I am, because, hey, I'm not such a posh git after all. Do you know what I mean? It's that, because I would have thought nowadays he struggles with his background because everybody thinks, oh, he's a big posh sausage, isn't he?
Sort of backlash to how things were in the past, where the ruling class, if we may use Marxist terminology, did literally rule the roost. Little tributary here before we hear the third and final clip. As I've alluded to, we hear Caitlin Moran, so I thought that was an interesting one for our listeners to hear, because I think it's quite a critical speech, dare I say. Dominic Brigstock is his brother, is he not?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. I've worked with
he's a
Dominic,
producer, isn't he, Dominic?
A director.
Director, sorry, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure I worked with him on, as you know, I have to do a hashtag name drop at least once in a show. Blackadder Goes Forth, I had a feeling he did. But I'm reading here, he did I'm Alan Partridge. So, great pedigree there. Smack the Pony, which I like, you're not such a fan of. Lovely Sally Phillips, who was also in Alan Partridge.
Yeah.
But anyway, I say, big names.
I'll qualify everything that I've just said with the caveat that I could be talking out of my hat, to be honest. But that's how I felt. It was like a kind of gut. I'm thinking, like you kind of your mind starts to. I could have just had too much cheese. I mean, I don't know.
Well, cheese leads us in nicely, does it not, to the Cheese and Poetry Festival. Is it Cheese and Poetry? Words and Curds.
Words and Curds.
In Wales, somewhere in Wales, I believe. And that's where they chance across Caitlin Moran, of whom, well, you'll hear her in a moment, but doubtless we'll be talking about her and the phenomenon that is Caitlin Moran. What do you need to know? Basically, they've bribed Caitlin to give them a bit of help with their problems, a bit like family therapy, even though she makes it clear, Caitlin Moran makes it clear, she is not a family therapist, but to them, she clearly can take on that kind of role. And the bribery is to give her some cheese in return for her wisdom.
Needy dad. Shut up now. The thing is, you're a dad. It's literally your job to embarrass your kids and just get it a bit wrong. Young women need male role models that aren't big, scary bosses or swaggering lads. They need to know that men can also be flawed, adorable doofuses. That's your job. Be a patriarch, but not the patriarchy. You're not the man, you're just a man.
Yeah, but what about...
Shh, needy dad. Stop with the whataboutery. You've said it's impossible to talk to Cat, but have you ever considered listening to Cat? If all the men stopped flapping away telling us what the problem is and just listened instead, we might actually get somewhere. Don't tell your daughter what's wrong with the world. Let her tell you. Put some of this unexpectedly crunchy cheddar in your gob if it helps, but just be a massive, kind ear.
Right. Oh, that is very good cheddar.
Lola, you are a beautiful weirdo. Lean into that. You are in charge of asking all the questions now. Never stop doing that. Cat, you're 16 and a burgeoning woman in the world, and therefore you can do no wrong at all.
What?
Well,
no,
but
that's...
Cease.
Just horrible.
I knew it wasn't going to win you over.
It started to sound like Charlie Brown's teacher after a while. Do you ever remember that?
No, I don't.
Charlie Brown's teacher, because he had trouble concentrating, every time the teacher talked, all he could hear was...
I thought that was Pingu.
I very often say to Angelina, I say, can you just, hang on, start that again, because she sounded like Charlie Brown's teacher. And that's all I could hear. It was just horrible, offensive. Can you imagine if it had been a man going, needy mom, now shut up. Now, dear, then you just sit down, dear. And you
but we're
really
not poor
patronising and
defensive.
horrible.
We're not defensive. It's probably matronising, but we're not poor defenceless creatures, are we?
What kind of excuse or what kind of reasoning is that? To say, well, I stabbed him, officer, because he was a big strapping lad. I don't think that'd work, would it really? But yeah,
fooled me from her.
All right, son. Anyway,
so let me off with a caution.
Yeah,
you're a caution.
It's just horrible, 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 horrible beyond words.
I mean, it's so obvious now that you were never going to like this show. There's a part of me, I suppose, it just won't admit defeat, will it? It just thinks somehow I'm going to win you round to London-centric shows with middle-class smuggery of a liberal left-leaning, sandal-wearing, Guardian-reading nature.
It isn't even that, though, is it? It's just that... I mean, a lot of what she said was just plain wrong. It was her opinion, quite clearly, but was in my opinion, was completely wrong. And I don't know. I just found it frustrating, the direction it took in the end. And I liked it more going into that than I did coming out of it, is the best way to describe it. The thing that really frustrated me out of all of it...
going into what?
Into that Caitlin Moran section, right. Yeah. I just thought it's just horrible. The thing that really frustrated me more than anything was they even muffed the last gag, didn't they? The cheese gag at the end.
Remind me.
How do they make cheese? How do they make cheese in Wales? And they all went carefully. And what they should have done was carefully. That you'd say you put. And I thought, but
it was obvious what. I know because it's a cheat, isn't it? You half. I think you're being too doctrinaire there. Yes, speak.
I've got a question for you, sir, as well.
And I've got to say about Caitlin Moran one more thing, which I think you'll like. This is an angle you will enjoy.
Just one more thing, man.
Just one more thing.
Just one more thing, Caitlin.
Mr. Fogg.
Go on.
Oh, no, okay. Which is that every time she's referred to, did you spot it? They always say her surname. And who does that remind us of, and which show that we slabbed not so long ago? Well, maybe you don't make the connection. It's not. Actually, the surname wasn't mentioned. It's Bar or Barry from EastEnders in extras. Stephen Merchant playing the agent.
Why do they do that? I didn't get why they called her Caitlin Moran all the while.
I think it's the same reason. It's celebrity. It's like you're a slightly different person. Yeah, they were a bit bowing and scraping, but that was part of the joke, and it was knowingly putting her on a pedestal. I don't quite get the Caitlin Moran thing because I haven't seen enough of her work. I know she's one of those people John Peel would have said was famous for being famous.
Oh, okay.
I think.
I must admit, I don't really know who she is. I always get her confused with a comedy actress who's also called Caitlin, I think.
Who appeared alongside Aisling B in something we Slab?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Afraid I haven't got it in front of me. Anyway, she pronounced it Caitlin, by the by.
All right. Well, I pronounce it Caitlin. So she's really going to have to live with that.
Well, I think, I'm surprised you didn't mispronounce her surname in a way that would be potentially libelous. Carry on anyway. You had a point.
She's going to have to live with that.
Cat? Is that you squeaking?
Oh, yeah, that was me. That was, yeah. I think I'm ready to boil.
I'm off the boil.
Yeah.
It's all those matey bottles.
No, all it was a quick question because you and your heritage of acoustic engineering.
Oh, try me.
When it started, it sounded really awful acoustically. It sounded like they were in like and at various points it sounded like it was being recorded in somebody's bathroom. Did you pick up on that? Did you listen on headphones or did you listen on speakers?
Headphones, and I don't. It didn't trouble me in that way, but it's a bit open, as we would say. How technical does one want to get? I think it's audience mics being open, where in TV they would be a little less open.
Okay. I felt that they weren't very close to however they were being mic'd at the start of it.
It's the PA opening it up. Also, it may have changed, but when I last saw it, which was a few years ago, my information, I'll be honest on that, what I understood from popping into the sound control room where it would have been recorded at the radio theatre, assuming it was, I think it was, they record straight to stereo. They don't record multi-track, so they don't go back and remix.
Okay.
Unless that's changed, that is my understanding. So you can't do the same sort of repairs. Also, probably wouldn't have the budget to have a long time in post-production sound. That's probably as technical as anyone wants me to get.
Which would explain why there's a whopping great edit in there as well when she's talking about the parental block, and they cut to a word at the end of the sentence, and I actually winced. It was like such a mismatch in terms of the way that they edited it, which was quite interesting. But again, I don't know if we just hear it like that because of
being bored.
Yeah, sad accent. That's what it was. Really. But yes, anyway, so okay, that's cleared that up. Anyway, so yes, as Rowan Atkinson, as the judge would say, proceed.
Proceed. Who goes first? Halt. Who goes there with the score?
The deluxe is the one with the real hair. I can never remember this. Do you want me to go first and just?
Yeah. Well, I'll try and second guess you first. Don't be worse than 2. Surely it's not going to be sub 2. I hope it's saved by having Mr. Brigstock in and Ms. Godliman. Please, no lower than 2.
It's a 1.5 for me, I'm afraid.
Oh, lordy! Gosh, I think you're getting worse with your scores.
And I'll say it is with regret. And it is, I take no pleasure in it because, I say this so often, everybody can't like everything. I'm sorry, but you can't. And I would just say, I love Marcus Brigstock. I love Kerry Godliman. I was disappointed and saddened. It just wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. You know what I mean? I'll have the 1.5. It's me. It's my fault. But I just couldn't. I couldn't do it, Cap. I wouldn't listen to another one. Let's put it like that.
Which, as we know, for you is not flattering. Whereas if I just listen to one show in a series, that's fairly typical and shouldn't be taken as an insult or a slight. Well, to some extent, I can bolster the added combined scores because I'm going to give it 4 out of 5.
Okay, are you really?
Yeah. I just love some lovely crisp lines, and I thought it had a big heart. And I include Caitlin Moran's, I used the word speech earlier. It was, normally I don't like something that sounds so theatrical and I can virtually see it on the page as quite dense black print because it's a long speech. But it worked for me, clearly not for you, for the reasons stated, quite audacious to have such a long speech in a sitcom, and certainly, well, comedy is all about risk, isn't it? And for you, the risk didn't work. For me, it did. We're on either sides of the great divide. We'd be fascinated to know what you made of it, dear listener. We are at Comedy Slab on Twitter if you want to give us some feedback. But I personally hope you enjoy it if you go away and listen to it off the back of us talking about it.
All right, 5.5 out of 10 for the Wilsons Save the World. You better get in quick if you want to listen to it. In fact, by the time, if you've been a bit tardy listening to us, by the time you've listened to us, you've probably missed it. But I think, am I right in thinking it was this that? Let me just check a link that I've just put up here. Yes, actually, what I've done, I've been a little bit naughty because this is available in audiobook form. If you wanted to get it, series 1 and 2 is available to buy via Amazon. So I put the link in there for Amazon so that people can, if you do really want to catch up with it, you can do so by. Do you remember buying it? How old fashioned!
Going into a bricks and mortar shop.
Yes, yeah.
I was going to say Jeff Bezos needs the money, doesn't he?
I think, yeah, of course he does. He's on his uppers, the poor kid.
He's down to his last few billion.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'll put that link in there with the description. It is a BBC Studios production. So I suppose you want to know what we're going to do next week, don't you? Episode.
I do.
What are we? 95?
95.
We're getting closer.
We are.
I don't know whether I'm going to blow you away with this one, but I saw something like some artwork for this program the other day, and I thought we should slab this because it's got such great heritage and it's no longer on anymore. And I've watched and enjoyed it and watched and enjoyed it and watched and enjoyed it. I'm not sure whether you have. But I thought, no, actually, let's do this. And let's go back early when it was only half an hour, because it ended up being like 50 minutes and all sorts of stuff, where they mucked about with the format. And some people thought it worked so much and some thought it didn't. And I'll say 2 words. And if you don't get it from the 2 words, then I'm going to smack you on the bottom with the Woman's Weekly.
Oh, well, Victoria Wood are the 2 words, aren't they?
And the 2 words are lovely jubbly.
Well, it's Fools and Horses, is it?
It is only Fools and Horses.
It could only be only Fools and Horses.
And I thought, yeah, I'm going to go back to mainstream, and we'll kick that one around. I'd just be interested to analyse it, and to pull it apart and see what we think of it in an analytical way rather than just a loving it way. And I've nailed my colours to the mast, haven't I now? So, but it's your turn to tell us what you think, of course. So, it's Only Fools and Horses, Series 3, Episode 3, entitled Friday the 14th.
Series 3, Episode 3.
Yeah.
Was that a random choice, or?
I kind of. I just had a quick squint at which the episode was. Do you ever remember the one with the chandelier when they're taking down the chandelier to clean it?
No, you'll be amazed how few, or perhaps you won't, how few I've seen.
Have you ever worked on it?
I have. I will do the name dropping next week.
Nice one. Okay, I knew that you hadn't seen much of it, and I knew you'd worked on it, and I thought, and because of that, it'd be a good one to have a crack at as well. Anyway, that's it. I'll say no more than that. Only Fools and Horses, Series 3, Episode 3, Friday the 14th. Friday the
14th. I'm intrigued by the title. And, I mean, whatever one feels about it, it's looms huge on the landscape, so you can't ignore it. And we want to be a relevant show. In all ways, up-to-date comedy, classic comedy, and so on. Right, I've mentioned at Comedy Slab on Twitter. It'd be lovely if you followed us there. We tweet sparingly, but it's quality, not quantity, stuff we think you'll be interested in, or which might even make you chuckle. Even Shane occasionally breaks into a smile. You wouldn't think it tonight, but he has got a funny bone somewhere there. And also, I'm not going to dwell on it. Also, it's at Comedy Slab for the Facebook page, which we'd like you to like. We'd love you to love. It's turning into a Donna Summer song if I'm not careful. The other thing is person to person, not transmission, but recommendation is a good thing. So if you can recommend it to, if you're in lockdown at the moment as we are, the people under your roof, nearest and dearest, or nearest anyway. And also, of course, there is. We've discovered so many different ways to video conference with people or video call people. That's another way to get the message out there. So we can go for world domination. No, that doesn't really work. That's the brother anyway. What else was I going to say? Oh, yes, and a nice generous star rating on iTunes / Apple Podcasts. There's different ways to do that. That would be warmly welcome. Thank you very much in advance.
It was a good effort, wasn't it? It just wouldn't squeeze in there. I should have brought my cape with me so I could put it over my mouth like this and prance about like the villain because I didn't like the show tonight. But there you go. I'll live with it anyway. Don't forget we're on Stitcher, Spreaker, iHeartRadio. What's that?
YouTube.
What's the green one? Spotify, YouTube as
you
well.
Always forget
yes,
Spotify.
Yeah, Cuddly Toy. I missed that, the Generation game. But I mean, if we had a choice, where I'd like you to listen, Spreaker would be my favourite. But that's just my personal opinion.
That's feathering your own nest, isn't it?
Well, everyone's got to have feathers in their nest, haven't they? Otherwise, you'll have a featherless nest, and nobody wants that.
No,
so between now and the next episode, thank you so much for listening. I'm off to Wales. I'm going to visit Carefully.
Oh, did you get that right by your own standards?
I used to work for a guy, actually. I had a job in a pub. And I used to work for a guy a guy called Steve, who was from Caerphilly. He was as Welsh as they come, as Caerphilly. And he always used to say Caerphilly's claim to fame was that's where they make Peter's pies.
Did you look blankly at him?
Which were big, apparently. I just imagined that they only put bits of Peter in these pies. Poor old Peter.
Yes. Well, he had it coming to him, really. Maybe his mates didn't particularly like him. I am going to go off and research what it means to be a woman. No, I can't think of anything remotely amusing. People might say you're halfway there.
Should be interesting next week then, shouldn't it? We can have a look at the results.